Today we have a great program for you today, and we ask you to tune in, ask your questions, type in your questions. We're monitoring here, and we want to take this opportunity to thank some of our sponsors of this program who helps us out and who our partners are. And we want to thank Mac Talk Radio, who's one of our new partners coming up real soon. And we're going to be having a radio program for Mac Talk Radio coming real soon, and that's Crazy Faith Network. All right. And also we want to thank Brick TV in New York City, who's airing Hartford Community Leaders. Got some great things happening in and out of our communities, and we ask you all to support what's happening in our communities. One of the things that I would like to say is that we have to support one another. Churches have to come together, businesses, community. We have to support one another. And today's program, we're going to be talking about that coming together, striving for perfection, all right, down through the years. And I tell you, when we first started this program, we had a song that was our theme song, and it still is our theme song, is striving for perfection. And as a community, we have to strive for perfection, all right? There's a lot of things happening in and around our city. One of the things, I want to get the preliminaries out the way. We've got a program happening over at Town Hall meeting with Mayor Luke Bronin, happening on 31st Tuesday today, the 31st, 6 o'clock p.m. at the North End Senior Center, 80 Coventry Street. Yes, and they're going to have a community forum with the mayor, town hall meeting with Mayor Luke Bronin, the North End Senior Center, 80 Coventry Street, and we ask you to come on out and support this particular event. And one of the things is that you want to find out what's happening in and out of your community. So these town hall, you can go and ask your questions that you may have in the town halls. Today I would like to thank our staff. I want to thank Sister Trish Nelson, Brother Mike, and Mondo, who's our camera and cable cast. And I want to thank our co-host, Lakia Siobhan Leitner, who is here with us on today. And today we're going to get started into the program because I know this is going to be great. We have a gentleman who is a promoter, he's a scholar, he's a doctor, is in the house, and he's here, and we're going to get started with him. Dr. Howard, Bradford Howard, thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. What a pleasure for me to be here. It's been a few years since I've been here. For you that don't know on TV, who recognize me for music, I got my start right here on this show over 4 years ago. I had just recently won the Pioneer Award at the Hollerbeck Gospel Awards.
That's right.
And Donald Paget over here was my favorite musician, and Lakia is one of the great entertainment people. And so I'm just so pleased to be here today and to come back 4 years later and just thank this show for giving me my start.
And I want to take this opportunity to thank Dr. Howard, because when we first started 4 years ago, we had our theme, Striving for Perfection, and we have a new CD that's coming out, The Best of Grady and Howard, and it's a feature with our song number 8, Striving for Perfection. And we'll have an autographed signed copy newly released today. All right. And from Dr. Brad Howard. Jr., thank you so much for this signature CD.
You're quite welcome.
Yes. Tell us, since you last was on the show, what's been happening and what's new? What's going on?
You know what?
You stay so busy.
Yeah. What happens is that I was amazed at the number of people that really follow your show. I know sometimes it's hard to track it, but I became almost a household name after just appearing on a public access TV show,
Right.
and people don't realize the great numbers. And what happened was this was a doorway to me to other things.
Right.
And since this time here, I've been blessed through God to, I've gone on and won Extraordinary Person of the Year award across the world 4 straight years
Wow.
since then. And this year I won the Motivational Leader Award of that category.
Right. Great.
I've recently become a member of the Gospel Image Academy Awards, which last week I was nominating people for this major award. I've also been blessed that after writing this song, Striving for Perfection, with people that know, as a person who grew up in Harvard, you and I were talking about what can we do or what can we tell people? And we're dealing with people from all generations,
Right.
young and old. And so what happened is I said, wait a minute, we're talking, let's strive. But what are we going to strive for?
That's right.
Strive for perfection. And so what happens is there's a funny story that happens with this, is that one day I was in a certain side of town and there was some people that were picking on this lady. And I went by and said, why don't you leave her alone? Well, who do you think you are? And so I'm like, look, please, just do something. And so then after I looked at them, and they had something on their ears. I'm an old timer, I'm over 70. And they were listening to this song. And I'm like, what's going on? And I said, can I listen to this song rather than create havoc? You don't know what's going on.
Right.
And well, you wouldn't know what it is. I'm so stupid that when I'm hearing this show, I said, oh, that sounds familiar. And then I said, wait a second, this is Striving for Perfection. This is a young kid on the streets. And so I said, if I introduce you to the person that wrote that song and is doing the spoken word in the background, will you let this lady go and leave other people from coming in this neighborhood? Yeah. I said, I want you to go on YouTube and type in Dr. Brad Howard Jr.
Okay.
And he takes it. And I said, turn around 3 times. And he did it, laughing. He said, now what? I said, this is me.
All right.
And so what happened was, who would have known that this song, this young person took it on. And another song in the CD is one called Keeping It Clean. And for you guys mothers that are petty, that they want your rooms clean, my mother, if the room was clean, it wasn't clean enough.
Right.
If there's a piece of paper 25 feet away. And so I said, well, how can I show love and respect to my mother, who's always on my case for my room? And I wrote this song called Keeping It Clean.
Wow.
All these songs are something. I later wound up with some problems with prostate. And God delivered me through it. And what happened from there, Curtis Robinson and their group put together a men's health unit. I was one of 4 people that was featured in this video that went across the country.
Wow.
Clifton Davis, the actor, he hosted it. And so it was a thing put together to get people to take the test.
All right.
And I'm so glad that I had that opportunity, because I wish I had known from my father that he had that problem years ago,
Right,
my uncle.
right.
In the black community, a lot of times, and I'm not trying to make it a real color thing, but I'm black, so I have to talk about my community. A lot of times, we're not always aware of things because some things are private and they need to stay that way.
Right.
And so I found out after I was taken care of is that I need to let other people know.
Right.
I've been so blessed with what's going on with the community leaders. Through this show, I met Henry Brown and some other people who were like myself, very concerned, Carl Hardricks of the streets, to do whatever we can. And Hartford gets a bad notch every day, because
Yes.
on the news at nighttime, there's a fire, there's a car accident, there's somebody killed. But what about all the people that are supporting each other?
Right.
What about the great programs?
That's right.
What about all the wonderful things? What about the wonderful women? I was blessed that as a kid, there was a guy named Don Summers, who was my favorite teacher, and anybody who remembers back then, that's why I'm who I am now. There's just so many people that were there that helped me out, and I know recently over the years, Arjo Wentz was the city council, never too busy. She had a show, Get Hip, Get a Grip. I released that song that Dennis Grady and I did there, and that went to #1 in the country.
Wow. Yeah.
I think that we spend too much time talking about negative. Let the TV cameras do that. Let us come up with ideas, solutions, and shows like yours
Right.
that bring in people.
Right.
I'm also in the area with violence that everybody looks at me that goes out in the street, and I'm always helping people out. But people don't realize that back in years ago, in the late 90s, I saw my brother. He went out to the store, never came back. We didn't know what happened. And then Lou Brown and them tell me that my brother was found shot in the head on the ground, Southwood, Mass. And we all go through these things.
Right.
All these years that I was supporting everybody else, I have to be supportive.
That's right.
So I'm so excited to see what's going on
Yes.
in this show. I'm so excited for this young girl who I knew from an intern to radio, who's now doing such great things.
Yeah.
And my favorite musician is now talk host.
Yes. Hey, 2014, we sponsored the first job and housing workshop.
Right.
And then it led on from there to do a financial literacy workshop. And so, we've been moving and
I was at every one of them.
working in the community ever since, and so, and it all started, when you came in and we started the programming here and striving for perfection.
But from the literacy thing that you do, we all need to understand there's nothing new under the sun.
Right.
But from that literacy thing that you did a few years ago, I have now started a motivational and mentoring program.
Okay.
And so what happens is, it's going to be working with young people, older people,
Okay.
that there's many people around that have gifts and talents. Some of them sometimes just need those little tools and stuff to be
Right.
successful. And so I'm starting this program that doesn't cost the people that are in the program anything.
Right.
We have to do whatever. I've planted seeds. If there's somebody who wants to help support, intern, whatever.
Right.
But there's just too many gifted and talented people from the area that don't know the right people, don't have the right last name. And since now I've been blessed with various awards and stuff and been praying for people across Facebook, now I know people in these realms that I can make a telephone call and listen. And I'll give you an example. One of the greatest talents in this area is a gentleman named Shane Davis. One of the best gospel singers.
Yes.
He's like a Donnie McClurkin. And I know one day,
He was on Sunday's Best.
right, he was on Sunday's Best, and he did my aunt's funeral, and his mother said, well, can you help him? And I used to be a guest host who turned into a co-host on the famous Tony Gill show out of Houston, Texas.
Wow.
And so he was one of the most famous musicians ever. And I asked him, can we get him on there? And he said, where's his music? I said, he don't have any music. Can he come on a cappella? So we had him on there, and we had a young lady, Michelle Brooks Thompson out of Springfield, who won the big thing at the Apollo.
Okay.
She was the big thing, and she won #2 in The Voice.
Right.
And then there was another gentleman from North Carolina. I had them all on this radio show, and now they're all successes.
Wow.
It is up to us that are in a position and have the ears of everybody else to help those people to get where they are.
Right.
The Bible said, we that strong take on infirmities, weak and not to please themselves. I'm the preacher, not trying to preach, but all it means is that if I'm in a better place, give me a hand, I can help her to be what she needs.
That's right. Right. And so, speaking of that, And as some say that you gotta have just in church as is part of the ministry. You know what I'm saying? And not and some people say that, well, community, they forget about the community when it comes down to ministry. You know what I'm saying?
Community is a ministry all by itself.
Yeah. So I mean, when you're on your daily ventures, on your daily walk in your life, that should be one of the priorities.
Well, let me tell you something. I used to do a lot of stuff in the Park Street area. And so I'll tell you, talk about ministry, I'd be out there with a lot of the guys, some of the guys homeless, substance abusers. Well, when I had the prostate trouble and I was surgery and it took me 3 months to recoup, I went back on Park Street. And so some of these guys were like, I miss you. And I said, what? They said, guess what? The whole time you were laid up, we stopped drinking and we didn't shoot up during that time frame. We need to understand as a preacher, I'm in the pulpit, but the ministry for the church is there. But when I come out, there's a message of hope. There's a message of inspiration. And I'm supposed to be out there being an example that somebody else may want to come and do something positive.
That's right,
If they join the church, all right, that's their choice. If they don't, that should not be the reason to help somebody just so they can come in your church.
Right.
God never did that. Christ went around and helped everybody else. If they never come to church, you do what you're supposed to do, not beat them in the head, and that's it.
That's
So
right.
when I look at coming off the corner of Pavine and Main, and I'm going to be honest, I was 12 years old sometime, and I was always looking up to the older guys, and I was about 6'2.5" with a mustache. And so I would go in the package store for the older guys because I looked older. I'm 12 or 13 years old. Well, come on, we're talking about teenagers in the 60s. I'm so sick and tired of Christians that are sitting around here with the big heads that they never did anything wrong.
That's right.
Well, David in the Bible did wrong.
That's right.
I was at our church one day, and I think I was preaching the other day, and I heard the tape, and I said, I believe in my lifetime I probably committed 1,700,000 and something sins before. I don't need to do it now. We're not perfect. We're striving
for perfection. That's right. Hey, so you have Striving for Perfection, and also you have a new release, He's Preparing Me.
He's Preparing Me remix is a song that Dennis Grady wrote. At the time, he loved Never Too Busy that I wrote, and I liked his song better.
Right.
So we went back in the studio, did a remix, and what happens is it's been out very short time. We're releasing it right on the station here today, but we had like a little pre-test, and it's already hit number 9 on a top 10 chart.
Wow.
It's already number 1 on another chart, and the whole CD project has hit number 1. So it just shows you that this little boy from Bellevue Square, building 4E Bellevue Square, who used to be called Butch Howard, walking around sucking his thumb, scared of his own shadows, God used to help me become who I am. And I just want to take a second for, like, sometimes family. I had this cousin, Bill Turner, and, there's just some other people that were in my area that would let me follow them. I always pick on my cousin and call him names, but he used to let me follow him and his brother Bobby. And there was always other people in the area. And then since I've been older now, one of my role models is Paul Ball. And I think I'm 10 years older than him.
Right.
But he has this seasoning where I'm like this little street kid who now became a preacher that has all these degrees. And let me tell you something, folks. These degrees, I did it because my father only went to the 8th grade. My father had to quit school, take care of his mother, and my mother had to stop after high school. They asked if I would go to school, and I was the first to fail. So don't think I'm cute. I went and got all of those for my family.
Right.
I thank God I have them, but I did it for them. I didn't do it for me.
One of the things I wanted to say is that you mentioned Paul Ball. Now, me and Paul Ball, we go back some years and years.
I met him through
I was 16 years old, and and I was playing for a gospel group called the Gospel Crusaders out of Springfield, Massachusetts, and our group in the Wonders, and Paul Ball was part of the Gospel Wonders, and he played bass guitar, he sang, we toured together. We had a bus business, and we toured at the age of 16, traveling the road, and so I think
he's one of the. Matter of fact, he's the legend.
Yeah.
If you look on Facebook, I recognize people every month.
Mm-hmm.
He's the legend for the month of August.
And to show this, how things work together, I think I had a program in West Hartford. I was doing the school program.
At Northwest, we were there.
Northwest Catholic.
We were all featured
promoting
on
it,
it,
And so, and I had him come in to do a few songs, and then
he rocked the house, and I met him through you.
Right.
And I was one of the people that just did his appreciation program. Let me tell you something else too, is that we need to understand something. As my father taught me a very great lesson, is do what you got to do, cry later. I learned later on that me and my sister, my father would be around us every day. One day he didn't show up. We found my father dead in the house. It was late at night. We had to have somebody with the hearse come. I had to help put my father in the hearse. My sister was having trouble. And then guess what? I had to clean up the house. And then I hopped in the car and cried on the way home. My father taught me this best lesson. We cannot hide from certain circumstances.
Right.
We have to do what we have to do. I don't care how hard it is, how bad it is it tastes. You do what you got to do as a man or female, and then go to your pity party.
Right. And then that's what we're facing with some of the young people today. They're going out there having babies, and they don't want to take responsibility for their actions. And then they wonder why the state has to come in to give them child support, to have child support taken out of their check, and they don't understand why.
Let me tell you something. I have 4 children, 8 grandchildren, and numerous godchildren. And I'm gonna tell you something. My father taught me that being a man was taking care of your family. How can you have the gall to tell a female to call the child your name if you're gonna go take care of it?
That's right.
And guess what? And you should not want to put his name there.
That's right.
And I understand about taking care of her, but don't give that child his name.
That's right.
That child's going to be growing up as a junior of what? So, I mean, you guys out there that want to get mad at me, I don't care. If you're going to be a man, be a man.
That's right.
If you don't want children, don't have them.
That's right.
There's people out there that want them.
That's right. And and so, these young men today, and I'm not, I'm one to lift up our men, but we have to let our men know what's going on, because we have some young people, their minds are in other places, and they don't understand that when it comes down to life, because if you don't take care of that child, you starting a family curse.
But guess what you're forgetting though? There are some young men out there that are taking care of the children,
That's right.
and the female's not there. And what happened is they can't get entitlements and they can't get anything else to help out with their children because they're not females.
That's right.
So there's some young men who are good fathers who are trying to maintain a job and they can't pay $200 a week for each child. But there's some men raising kids and there's grandparents raising them.
That's right. And so, I know a few that I work with who the mother is nowhere to be found, and they're raising that
and they
daughter.
can't get no help.
Yeah, and they're raising that daughter by themselves, and they're blessed. And God always makes a way.
You know something? There's a young person that I know, and I just saw him on my way here. Stephen Palmer. I know you know him. I think he won the Howard Gospel Award the year before me. And he's always with his kids. Wherever you go, his kids are with him. He got girls And if you look on Facebook, he got this little boy that's shouting all over the place. He's not the only one. I'm just using an example because I just saw him on my way here.
Right.
And he's doing a project, Youth on Fire,
Right.
and I know he's been talking to other men raising kids and stuff. We have a great resource in our community of people with great skills doing great things.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is we're not all talking to each other.
Right.
And then when we are talking to each other, we're not listening. And then all of a sudden, this person's saying the same thing that you're saying, but you thought that they said something else, and so now you can't get nothing done.
That's right. And that's what, we started at Hartford Community Leaders is bringing all entities together, whether it was faith-based entities, whether it was organizations, churches to come together, to try to, come up with solutions to some of the problems that we've been facing in our community and presenting an antidote,
Right.
a prescription.
Well, Doc had to take this prescription,
Yes.
but I got my little prescription
Yes,
for all my
yes,
stuff.
a prescription to some of these issues and problems that we have been facing in our communities. And so, and like I said, and last year we just did over 100 men in a shelter.
Yep.
We produced the care packs for 100 men in a shelter, and just to see those men and how they were, they listened to what we were saying.
They were inspired.
They were inspired. Yes. And and this is what we have to do. We have to encourage them beyond the point. They may be in a homeless shelter right now, but 2 weeks later or a month later, you never know where that individual is going to be.
And I can tell you something. Some of them, because I was with you, and what happened, people didn't realize, and I can tell you some of the stories. There's one of the individuals, and you won't even, maybe you don't even remember, we helped out, Charter Oak Health Center had donated their board some shirts and khakis after we did your show.
Mhm.
And we gave them to the various different shelters. And one of the guys left the shelter to do an interview.
Mhm.
He's working for a corporate agency right now, big title, doing great things, and he's doing everything. Sometimes some people it takes longer.
Right.
We can't push people. How long did it take us to be who we are?
Well, if you present that foundation, that seed, you plant that seed.
That's it.
And that's all it takes, to plant that seed. I did an event, and I did it for a sponsor. One of the libraries was about to close on Farmington Avenue, and they had this big event, and so they wanted the community support, and so I was out there doing some DJ work, playing music, and so a young man came to me and he said, I was one of the guys that was hanging on the streets, and then when I heard that you were playing the music, he said, I was so inspired, and I'm doing good now. And so those type of stories make you, it just, I tell you, it touches your heart.
Well, you know something, everybody wants to give me the pat on the back, but if you knew all the people that helped me out, like years ago, Stan McCauley was a person who had a vision for TV where, in the sense that, my kids, when they were young, there was a thing called Dirty Soap and Water. Silver Sergeant and Stan, they put together this. My kids were in that.
Okay.
And then later on, Stan had a show every Friday night. I'd come there at 11 o'clock. He'd let me come on there, and I'd talk to some of the people. They call in. I'd pray for them or give them some advice. And that's probably the reason I'm on TV now. And even my son-in-law, Chris. Chris gave me one of my first experiences on the radio show.
Right.
And now everybody's calling me, of which I now have 2 radio shows on his
Yeah, we're going to talk about that.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about his network also. Yeah, definitely.
I'm just a person that, like a puzzle, all these people in Hartford, from Stouffville to Charter, all these people who took the time to take this knucklehead Butch Howard to now be Brad Howard, to be, Minister Brad Howard, to whatever else I am now. They all made me, including here, and even the young woman who's behind the mirror down there, who's probably one of the greatest ones doing this show. I can remember I was nervous years ago coming on there with you, and she was calming me down, and I'm like, I don't know. Because you see, I'm looking for the clips that they put on.
Right. Now, and speaking of, that family circle, we came out and we talked about Bishop Chris McCarter and his wife Leslie.
Yep, my daughter, my oldest.
Yeah, and they just celebrated their anniversary 1 week ago, and we were fortunate. You sent out the invitation. We came out and supported. And when I got there, I was like, wow. And my godmother was there, the Mount Bethel. Now, I started out at Mount Bethel. That's where I got.
You're talking about Mother Hall.
Mother Hall, yes. I started out my first start at Mount Bethel, and just to see how the family structure coming together and that family circle coming together. And when she saw me, she was so happy. And then she came to me, she said, "Did I hear that you say that you're an elder now?" I said, "Yes,
She's
yes."
excited.
And she was so excited to go back and tell her son.
Well, let me tell you something. Your godmother was the reason that people went to banks, because she was with most of those banks when nobody else was there.
Right.
When we went in there, we sometimes want to see a face that we feel comfortable with.
Right.
And she was that person that got people in the bank and kept coming. And when I see her now, I've spoken at her church many a time for an auxiliary program. I just give her the ultimate praise, because I was uncomfortable going into banks. I didn't trust them. And I sure didn't want to give people my information.
Right.
But she made it so easy. And I'm going to tell you something. Her church is a blessing.
Yes.
Yeah.
And her father, started Mount Bethel, Pastor Davis. And
Cherry's his sister.
And so Pastor Davis, him and his wife, they started Mount Bethel, and they started way out in South Windsor. There in their house, they had church in their house, and we used to go there for Sunday school, Bible classes. I mean, you talking about services, and then the choir singing, Mount Bethel Church Choir. Yeah. Oh, I tell you, it was great. Yeah. And me as a young child, going there is like that experience. And like I say, my godmother, she took me in as her own son. Yeah, we did things together. She fed me. I tell you, she clothed me.
She's a great lady, and she's somebody that we all know. But there's a generation that don't know the history. That, as far as I'm concerned, she's Miss Bank.
Oh, I'm telling you. And one of the things she's a praying woman, and one of the things I learned from her is, as a young child, we were all gathered together, her sons and some of the other children around the neighborhood, upstairs, downstairs. We were about to go to school. So she said, "You're not leaving here until we have that family circle of prayer." So we all held hands, and we all prayed before we went to school. And this was every single day.
That's all right.
Every single day we were out there and we were praying. Yeah, so as a young child growing up, to see that family prayer, in the household, is like, wow.
Well, you know something? There's a gentleman who's the icon of all icons. I don't care what anybody says. It's Lou Brown. Now, I come from Bellevue Square. Lou Brown was there. Lou Brown has as much blood family to me and everybody in Hartford. That was my main role model growing up. He went on the TV and everything else. This little giant, who did so many great things. I'm amazed at him, And there's other people in the community, like some people get queued up, well, this person's a preacher, this person this. I was at a restaurant one day, and I bumped into Marvin Mink, who I just found out that he's a cowboy hater. And if he's watching, I want him to know I'm the biggest cowboy fan. He was telling me that he wanted to meet me.
Now you know the Eagles are number one now.
he was with Henry Brown, and he was saying he had wanted to meet me one day. And I said, well, what stopped you? He said, well, everybody says. I said, look, I'm your number one fan. I listen to you all the time.
Right.
He said, what? I said, I listen to you all the time. So he was like, I said, do I have to say it one more time? I listen to you all the time. we never know who's listening
That's right.
and who's watching.
That's right.
And he plays a lot of R&B, but church folks, we used to be dancing in the clubs.
That's right.
But like right now, I was at an event, an entertainment event, and so somebody asked me, they said, well, you're a preacher. Do you have anything against R&B, jazz, and all those other things? I said, no, I don't. I said, if you're going to be having music that's going to call women bees, and you're going to be cussing and everything, I have a problem.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's just regular music, there's nothing wrong to it.
Mm-hmm.
I love my gospels, but my parents brought me up on jazz.
Mm-hmm.
My favorite artist, everybody up here, growing up was Smokey Robinson.
Mm-hmm. Look at Aretha Franklin.
All right.
She was born in the church, in the church, singing gospel.
But
music.
can you imagine Smokey Robinson, Luther Vandross, Rance Allen, and the gospel keynotes?
Wow.
That's who made me who I am.
Yeah.
What a combination.
Right.
So quartet, some R&B,
Yeah.
and there's nobody like Rance.
Yeah, that's right. You're right about that.
So, I'm a makeup of all these things. So people's like, well, you write gospel, but God can use anybody.
That's right. And, and that's where I got my start from, doing sound with the keynotes. Because JP Production, he had a program in Hartford,
Willie Neal Johnson.
one of the gospel in one of the schools, and they called me in to do the sound for Willie Neal Johnson, the gospel keynotes.
I'm going crazy over here, people.
And I had an opportunity to talk with Willie, and it was a great experience, I tell you.
But you know something? I want everybody to know Kevin Monroe and Devotion are my group now.
All right.
That is my group now.
All right, okay.
I'm just telling you.
Yes. And then you talking about different ones. Now, there's a bass player in Middletown, I think. He's a bass player, and I think you know him real well.
Jerome Anderson.
Wait a minute.
Wait a minute.
We go back for ages. We go back
Let me
for
tell you
years
something.
and years.
Jerome Anderson, I hope you're listening, and I hope your wife is listening. I grew up in a household, and it was me and my sister, and I always wanted a brother. I'm making a quick story.
Uh-huh.
Years later, come to find out, my father had a son that was hidden from him, and years later, well, he grew up with Jerome.
All right.
So Jerome is my birth brother's brother.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. They call foster brother. I don't believe that.
Right.
And Jerome is my baby. He's my favorite.
Bass player,
he was doing the sound stuff at the
Yeah.
Hollaback Gospel Awards.
Yeah.
Jerome, I hope you're listening. You are my baby.
Well, you see how the family circle has come together.
That's my brother.
Yeah. I'm
I
telling
knew
you.
when you said that, there was nobody better than him.
Yeah, we
They
were,
call him Tank.
Yeah, we were on the road, and
Wow.
and he was playing for Pastor Ferguson, and Pastor Ferguson had a gospel group. Him and I think his wife and family had a gospel group, and he was playing the bass guitar, and we would like go from the church, and we would like tour in the different areas in Connecticut.
So that's my baby brother. Like I
Yeah.
said, when I lost my brother, he took over. He's married to Selena Anderson. And what's so
Yeah,
funny,
Selena.
his wife is always sending stuff on Facebook.
Yes.
Hi, brother-in-law. And I'm like, excuse me?
Yes.
Because what's so funny is his wife is my cousin.
Uh-huh.
Wow.
Jerome's wife's my cousin.
Wow.
And she's writing. So I'm like, wait a minute. Am I your brother-in-law? Am I your cousin?
Oh, yeah, she's
Yeah, so
great.
God is good.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
There's just a circle. What we don't realize is that when we go to funerals, we find out who our family is.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're a male and you had a female cousin and you haven't seen them for a while, they get married to somebody else and they have children. And so here's my kids going to school. My youngest daughter, Steph, she has this girl who's a friend whose last name was Jones. Come to find out it was my cousin Bunny's daughter.
Oh, wow.
You know what I mean? So it's easy when somebody has the same last name as you.
Right.
But when it's a female that has children that's married. And so we need to look at the way the Word of God is that all our family, all our family, whatever religions, whatever denominations, those are your brothers and sisters.
Doc, let's talk about the new DVD that you
that's
have
fine.
out now right spiritual things.
You know what happened?
And I just want to say I have my signature copy that's released.
Well, you know something? I believe in double your pleasure, double income. So, as we went to release the best of Great and Howard, and that was the CD, we also decided that we wanted to have some videos for some people. Some people have only the equipment that they can see videos, and some only that they can hear audios. And so what happened, we took Never Too Busy and 3 other videos. So what happened, when the person gets this DV production, there's 4 different videos on there that are produced by Dennis Grady and myself.
And somebody's out there watching now. How can they get a copy of this CD and DVD?
Let me tell you something. Because I'm so elderly, so old, let's make it easier. Call me 860-816-1022 or email me bradgreatgospel@yahoo.com. How easy is that?
All right. Hey, you have two radio shows.
Yes, I do.
And tell us a little bit about those radio shows that you have.
Well, I have one show, and then the second one, Lakia inspired me to do that one.
All right.
The first show is Doc's Gospel Music Gallery. It's every Wednesday at 2 o'clock on the Crazy Faith radio station, which is Chris McCarter. And so there's the best of gospel music. You can contact me, I'll play whatever. But I was talking with her about a couple of weeks ago, and we were just talking. And for you that are sitting here watching, would you give me a hand for a second? This young lady that I'm holding hand is going to be one of the greatest entertainment artists there is. This is one of my new promotion projects. And what happened is she's been so busy in the background, putting everybody else up there, so we've been talking. She sings. And there's some other things too. I'm looking for her for a book, but also too, I have a movie coming out next year called Overcoming Obstacles Through Christ, of which I want her to be featured in the movie. But what happened, we were talking, I have a talk show called Doc Entertainment Avenue. I didn't want to use street, I wanted to use avenue because people can mistreat sometimes what you're saying. And so what that talk show is like, and she's going to be the first person on it, is the journey from newbie, all the trials and tribulations, going to success. So it may be her and I for 6 months and other people, but there's going to be other people we're going to be dealing with, whether they're in sports, whether it's artists, whether it's poetry. This show is going to deal with other people, but I'm using her as one of the first faces because everybody on the camera and TV sees her here.
That's right.
But they don't hear the other place. So
That's right.
she's going to be like a little picture for the show.
Yes.
So I'm hoping to get these individuals that have gifts and talents and let people see them. You know, like sometimes people lose weight, the before and after. So that's what this show's about, before and after.
Hey, we have Dr. Bradford Howard Jr. here with us. Hey, Hartford, if you have a question, type in your question, your comment. We got Danny Pedraza.
My favorite
and he loves the show. Thank you, Danny, for tuning in. We got Brandon Esquire Galindez, and we got Michael Daly Bailey, Philip Forbes, and we got Crazy Faith Mac Talk Radio. And Crazy Faith Mac Talk Radio 665 FM. All right, 165 FM.
Can I say something? Danny Petroza is one of the greatest people in the world and artists. He gets so upset because I talk about him. I try to give him an award. I don't need one.
Well, we got to have him come on here.
Yeah, because what happened is years ago when I was trying to do funding for the community, he saw me on Facebook, and so he said, I'd like to come to your church and be a blessing. I said, okay. He said, do you want me to bring the little band or the big band? I said, what are you talking about? I got a small group and a big group. I said, we better start with the small group. And so over the years, he has come over with his group, and they have ministered at my church. Matter of fact, he was with me at Paul Ball. I consider him like my own son.
Okay.
He is the greatest of all times one of them as far as musician, artist. He's just it. I hope you're hearing it, and let me hit you up in the head like NCIS. Understand God gave you that gift, and stop telling everybody you can't. But
All right.
Danny's the best.
All right. Hey, thank you for tuning in, Danny. Hey, we'd love to have you here on Harvard Community Leaders Public Television show. Yeah, just inbox me, and yeah, we can make it happen.
Well, you've heard him. He's excellent.
All right. And yeah, we want to thank, we got so many people that have tuned in. Hey, if you got a question, Hartford, make sure you tune in. And make sure you type in your question that you may have. If you have a question for Doc's prescription, all right, he can give you that prescription, all right?
Hey, I love it.
All right, he said, you are too kind. God bless you all. Thank
Who
you,
said
sir.
that?
Thank you.
Danny. He said,
Come
you
on,
was-
Danny. Well, good. Danny, you're watching this show. So I'm going to tell you right now, since you're saying too kind, I'm not going to be too kind, because going in from now to 2019, you and I are going to get together to do a project between us.
All right.
We're going to
All
sing
right.
and we're going to write.
All
So
right.
I'm putting it across TV that me and Danny Petrosa, and he can't tell me no, we're going to put out the next big gospel project
All right.
in 2019.
Hey, we gotta meet. I gotta meet this Danny Petrosa. We gotta meet.
Oh,
We gotta meet.
He tore up Paul Ball's appreciation.
Okay.
Paul met him at my church.
Uh-huh.
He went over there, and Paul just thinks he's the greatest.
Hey, want to thank Jackson, MacArthur Jackson.
Please.
He's out there watching. Thank you for tuning in. We got Bill Daniels. He says, hello. Hey, how you doing, Bill? All right, Bill
Oh,
Daniels.
say, Jackson is the greatest production, studio, musician, and everything else I
Yes,
ever met.
that's right,
I had
that's right.
heard about him. I met him. He was nice one time that he was at the Lift Every Voice thing down there, and he allowed me to come on stage and sing with him. And then Leslie Manziel does a gospel thing every year, and he and I are two of the people that help with that. I don't know of any other greater productions other your own.
And
Ben Jackson.
I just want to say, Jackson Music Studio, he recorded my first single, Crossroads.
Jackson
back
is great.
in the early 2000s. I did a solo project, and it's called Crossroads, and he recorded that first project.
He's my hero when it comes to and the thing, he don't tolerate a whole lot. A lot of people have a problem, but he wants the best quality. So
Yeah, oh yeah.
why wouldn't
Yeah.
you deal with the best?
Yeah, and he doesn't settle for less. He settles for the best.
Right.
When it comes down to the quality of the artist, the quality of the product that you're producing, the product that's going out. He wants you to have the best.
He's the standard.
Yes.
The doc said it.
Oh yeah, definitely. And so I met Jackson years ago, and it's great. We got I tell you, we got so many people out here that's viewing the programming. So what's next, Doc?
What's next now is like I said,
You have a table at the event in
New Haven?
New Haven, yes.
Yes, we have 2 dates. Now, Dennis Grady and
Okay.
myself, we have a table at golf. That's with all of these major people
Yeah.
coming.
Wall Street Park.
Yep,
Okay.
and so I'm not going to be able to be there Saturday because I'm going to be at your birthday party.
Yes.
Happy
So,
birthday,
hey,
Pastor
happy
Patrick.
birthday. So
All right.
I'm giving up Saturday with them, and Sunday I'll be there Sunday afternoon. Dennis Grady and I have a table, and there's Rance Allen and all these
Uh-huh.
big people. I gave up Rance, my favorite, to be with you on your birthday
All
on
right,
Saturday.
now you know.
But I'll be down there Sunday. So
Yeah.
we're going to have a table, and what's going to happen is we're going to be there. Dennis will probably be signing autographs. I'll be just probably happy to meet and greet people. Also, too, right now, we're trying to get ready for the Hollaback Gospel Awards. I don't know, for the people that don't familiar with it, I think it's about the 14th year right now. Jerry Green and a gentleman named Tony put it together.
It's in New Haven.
And Ernest is there. It's one of the greatest events possible. Like I said, I won 2014.
Right.
I've been blessed to be a VIP there, but I love going there. But I got to get the last shout out. Jerry Green, who's one of the top radio people also, he's another one of my role models other than DJ Mackie C on WKND, Chris, who got my son. Jerry did a workshop in New Haven, and I attended it. And from that attendant, I learned so much from him that many awards I got just from what I learned from him. Him
Okay.
and Bishop Kenny Peoples out of New Haven.
Now, Kenny people. So we met at the awards ceremony. So we had never met, and so Dr. Kenny, I call him Dr. Kenny Peoples, and so he came and said, you're the guy that's on TV, on the internet, on Facebook. I said, yes. I said, how you doing? And we met. Yeah. So I'm looking to have him on.
Well,
Also.
Kenny is a great. Matter of fact, he's the most gifted person that's been acknowledged on my show for August.
Right.
And Kenny's the one who I was blessed some years ago to have gotten a media award in his father's name.
Okay.
How great of an honor there. And most of the stuff that I know dealing with media,
Mm-hmm.
I learned from Bishop Allen Kenny Peoples.
Wow.
Because it's Allen Peoples here.
Okay, Danny says here, and we're monitoring. And for those of you, they say, what are you monitoring? I'm monitoring the Facebook posts. I'm monitoring the Twitter posts. I'm monitoring the Instagram. We got questions here. Can you tell us about the Friday evening worship service with Paul Ball and friends?
Yes. Like I said, we started at my church giving out awards to people. Paul Ball got one, Danny got one, and some other great people like yourself. And so we heard about Paul Ball, who is the legend all around. Mm-hmm. And so we all came together to go and have a program to appreciate him. I was so blessed to be a part of it. But Danny has this habit of not only doing what he wants to do, be a blessing,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm over 70, I don't know all the equipment he has, but he's got this with his phone hooked up, and he's helping provide music for other people in the room.
Wow. People
are singing, he's doing stuff. Then he's singing along with people. It was just a great blessing that
Mm-hmm.
Paul Ball said that he never seen anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
We that are in this realm need to support those that are in higher positions,
That's right.
those that are brand new. But Danny, myself, and some others, we came by just to say, Paul Ball, you're great. We appreciate what you're doing. And so each and every one, because I'm going to tell you something, as you can see, I'm more the songwriter, but because Dennis didn't show up, I said, God, and I told everybody, God touched their ears. They don't hear no bad notes, because I'm singing tonight just for Paul Ball, and I sang both songs.
Hey, I want to talk about Georgia Davis. She's got a program happening in September 2nd. I'm hoping to have her come in, and she wasn't able to make it on this evening, but I want to give a shout out to Georgia Davis.
Oh, please, let me go there. It's not like I'm trying to take. Georgia Davis is the greatest photographer. Georgia Davis is the promoter of all quartet stuff. Georgia Davis is also my godchild, has won numerous awards. Mm-hmm. And for you that don't know, she's got a beautiful voice, and I have the honor of promoting her.
All right,
she
all
may
right.
not be here,
Great.
but she's also,
Yes.
other than Lakia, who are my top people. What I mean by top, they all start at the top. Ain't nobody starting at the bottom.
That's right.
But Georgia Davis, if you know, you can talk about quartet promoters. She's it. But unless you want to talk other, are you familiar with Erskine Butler? Best Quartet Radio out of Philadelphia.
Okay.
He's the cream that a few years ago he asked me to be pastor of his radio station. I'm like, what? I said, what do I have to do? So I had to send him a quick track of me with a preacher message and stuff. And so it's called Best Quartet Radio.
All right. Hey, just quickly, there is going to be a free prostate cancer prostate testing at Mount Olive Church this coming Saturday. Free prostate monitoring for this coming Saturday is free, open to the public. We need you to go over there and get tested, and it's free. And basically what they do is they do a blood test, and they check your numbers. And so you need to go there and take advantage of these things happening while it's free. And Mount Olive is located on Battle Street. Also, we want to take this opportunity to thank Jackson. Jackson, he's looking for a praise and worship leader and musicians. He said, I'm looking for a praise and worship leader and musicians. Hey, MacArthur Jackson, you can find him on Facebook. Inbox him if you know anyone that deals with praise and worship and musicians that would like to get involved. Send him a message. All right, Hartford. Hey, it's called Doc's Prescription, RX Prescription. Hey, he's got 2 new CD projects, DVD projects, and you want to go out there and Doc, tell us how to get these projects.
I'm sorry?